In what way does your media product use, develop, or challenge forms and conventions of real media products? Conventions are a widely recognised way of doing something that's to do with content, form, and style. My media product was built with typical conventions in mind in order to comply with the structure and appearance of a short film. However, I changed some aspects of my short film to make it unique and not cliché. My short film is 5.5 minutes, which is just short of the average length of a short film. I kept it this length because it is just long enough to have a full narrative that can go into detail and short enough to keep the interest of the audience. In this sense, I've used the length convention of a short film. However, this was heavily influenced by the coursework brief saying that the short film should be around 5 minutes. I also followed the convention of only having a few main characters. I had 2 in my short film. I did this because the narrative only required 2 main characters for the story, and I didn't want to introduce too many characters into a short film of only 5 minutes, because it would mean that there would not be enough character development within each one. I also followed the convention of being realistic, as I chose domestic drama as my genre, whose conventions include using lifelike situations in the narrative and having ordinary relatable characters.
Hello?
I didn't have a big budget for the production of my short film, so I couldn't do anything involving CGI or unrealistic effects. Even animation would have been a stretch too far because it wouldn't have been good enough to be effective. Hence, I chose to shoot a realistic drama that the audience could relate to, and I think I achieved this because of the realistic scenarios included in my short film. To make my film unique, I couldn't follow all of the commonly found conventions of a short film because that would be uninteresting, so to set it aside from the other short films, it needed to be original and to give reason for the audience to see the film. The main way I did this was by producing a short film that, for the majority of the duration, has one camera angle. The effect this has is the audience become onlookers of the narrative, and it becomes less like they are watching a film and more like they are witnessing it, referencing the title.
Oh, for God's sake!
The one camera angle throughout the majority of the film also allows for quick passing of time, and for the narrative this was very important. The passing of time was so I could play out a few months in the protagonist's life in a very short amount of time. This is also an unconventional factor because in an average short film, they normally tell a story that happened over a brief period of weeks. Acting out a few months was challenging with such little time to fill, but the vast amount of shots played in succession helped to show the quick-paced nature of time passing. Because I only used one camera angle for the majority of the film, this meant I utilised one main set, also an unusual feature for a short film. The main set I used consisted of a sofa, shelving unit and lamp to create an authentic looking living room. The idea of this was supposed to show that the protagonist spends almost all his time in this room, so the narrative follows the changes in the protagonist and the unchanging state of the sofa. To show time passing, I added and removed different props from the set in each scene to A. make the living room look lived in, and B. to give the impression that the protagonist is living in this room outside of the shots in this short film. My short film follows the convention of using dull lighting during scenes and bleak colours added during the editing process of the film.
Yes, hi, it's Thomas.
I did this because not only is it a convention of films in the drama genre, examples being from short films like Run, Grable and 1985, but it also adds to the realism of the film because otherwise the colours would be too bold and the audience would not be able to relate as much because the colours are too ostentatious and not applicable to real life. It also portrays the nature of the film and works with the highs and lows the film goes through. Bleak lighting is common in soap operas because they are meant to represent real-life events and problems, and so the dull lighting helps to add verisimilitude to the programme. This is why it's common in the drama genre also, because drama is based around realistic and relatable situations which the audience may have also experienced.
And I'm gonna do it.
The props I used are all common objects found in dramas. Objects like an ironing board, a TV remote and beer bottles, which are all included in my short film, are also found in drama short films like Giselle and soap operas like EastEnders. This is because these objects are found in everyday life and again help with the realism and relatability of the events in the film. Focusing on the title of my film, it also follows the convention of drama short films because I chose a title that was short and relevant to the film, but also added an element of mystery. As shown, the name of my short film was The Bystander Effect. This is because it directly links to the social psychological phenomenon where people do not offer any means of help to a victim when others are present. The greater number of bystanders, the less likely it is that anyone will help. This works well with the short film we've created because throughout the whole of the film we are watching the protagonist's life get progressively worse and then better, but we are oblivious to do anything about it as we are all bystanders, being the audience watching a film. Because of my short film's budget, I couldn't compose my own soundtrack to accompany the film, so I chose an existing track that fits the film well. This track was used throughout the duration of my short film because the mood of the narrative followed the mood of the music. For instance, when the protagonist felt depressed and was living in a very messy place, the music was quiet to reflect his mood, and when the protagonist started to turn his life around and become happier, the music became more uplifting. The effect this has is that the music helped the audience to feel the emotion I wanted to portray for the scene in the film. This is unconventional for a short film because normally the music is brought in when the protagonist attempts to fix the equilibrium and the film is back on track, hence the music is needed to lift the atmosphere, but the effect the music has throughout my short film worked to shape the audience's emotions throughout. The music also took the place of dialogue, which was just as well because with such short shots in the film, there was very little time for dialogue. This meant that the music filled in for what the dialogue would have otherwise done, tell the story. The small amount of dialogue in my short film is also unconventional, because in a drama there are usually characters talking and discussing the plot. However, with little dialogue I had to portray the plot progression in a different way, hence the music. The idea for little dialogue came from the short films 1985 and Me and You. Both films are focused heavily around the acting and set rather than the dialogue to tell the story, which is an interesting idea that I wanted to implement into my short film.